All right, Kittanning. It's what you've been waiting for. It's the very first Kittanning podcast, and what a special one it is. Super excited today to have with us Mayor Scott Kline. And so very excited to have you, my friend. Glad you could make it today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. I had my list of like everyone that I wanted to really be here, and you were number one on my list. So
I'm honored.
I don't think you always get the number one person that you're requesting, but you were it, man.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. No, I think I was very honored with it. The request to do that. I feel we can do great things with this. I feel if we get this up and going and running and constantly bring someone in, it'll highlight our town. The most important facts of what we're looking to do.
Yeah, totally agree. And that's one of my big things is I've lived here for like 6.5 years, and it seems like there's this major disconnect with anyone that's in government or anyone and then the kind of general population, and nobody trusts each other. And so I think if we can just have like some honest conversations and realize that we're all just people trying to do the best for our city, I think that breaks down a lot of barriers.
I think so too. And I think the other aspect is if we get more of our public out to our municipal meetings, to the council meetings, to see what's going on other than seeing it from the back seat, I would call it, ideas go a long way. You may not be able to accomplish everything that everybody's asking, but if you get a list of important things that people are asking, then you can actually hold your elected officials responsible and ask them why. And I think that's a disconnect we have in town because it just seems like the municipal government goes as businesses as follow, and then it seems like the public, goes on their own. You're right. There is to me there seems like a little bit of a disconnect where communication just isn't there. So
hopefully this will be kind of the first to start to break down those barriers, and then maybe people will get more involved, or maybe it'll spur someone that'll have an idea. And I just think the more that we talk, the better things will be. So
I believe so.
Appreciate you being here. How's it feel to be the first one?
Like I say, I'm honored. I like it. I mean, last night I sat at home and I told Crystal I read through the questions you had posed, and I says a little bit nervous, but I think it'll go well. And just like she said, be yourself and speak of how you want to just be out front. And that's the best way to be. And the more people we can get like that, the better off we'll all be. And we'll get people on the same page so that we can accomplish things.
Yeah, and I feel like I've gotten to know you better over the last 6 months or so as we've gotten to work together and do different projects. And, I think you and I can have a good conversation. I don't think we'll have any trouble with that.
No.
So just want to start it off a little bit lighthearted. Football this weekend. You have the Riverhawks drop their home opener. You have Pitt just gets destroyed by Penn State. And then what happened to the Steelers, man? That's just...
that was almost like a guaranteed win every year, and I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the Browns. I mean, everybody says the Browns. And everybody, you pretty much have to, it's just like life. You have to deal with the wins with the losses and the victories with the defeats.
Yeah.
And even with Pitt, I was kind of like, oh, what happened here? But I think each one of them teams, I think, is going to grow.
Yeah, I think they're all going to bounce back, honestly. Yep. And Cleveland, they won their Super Bowl, so they can take the next 15 games off, and they'll be good to go.
Yep, they got the bragging rights for the season so far.
Yeah. So just one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand, and I think when people talk about, like, President of the United States even, they think the executive of the United States, he has ultimate power to do whatever he wants in the country. And I think a lot of people think of, like, the mayor that way. And I know most of the power resides with city council, those kinds of things. So I just want to talk with you. What's the mayor actually do? What does that entail? Like, what do you feel? What's your job for the city?
My job's pretty much such as the events is the festival or any event coming into town. I'm pretty much we throw it out there just like the welcoming committee. Thanks for coming on behalf of the mayor, the public works, the government and so forth. We thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And mayor is pretty much like the ambassador of the visitors coming into your town. The main important role the mayor has is he oversees the police department with the command of the police department. The chief works underneath the mayor and then the officers and so forth. Actually, the only duty the mayor has whenever it comes to the governing body of council itself is if they should happen to stalemate at a tie, then the mayor ultimately breaks the tie. And that's an important role.
Yeah.
But if you sit back and look at some of the larger cities like Pittsburgh and so forth, where your mayor actually has a little bit more of a responsibility in the economical development and government of the municipality.
Yeah. What I think has been really cool is that, I think I have a fairly good understanding of what the mayor does. And but what's really neat is that you've been able to kind of be this driving force for like doing a lot of different projects. I'm thinking of like the windows downtown, and I know Scott Davis on council was helping with that, but it's like you're really involved. And so I just wanted to, say thank you for that.
I appreciate that.
It could be something where you're just like a figurehead and you just want to be known and recognized, and I don't feel like that's what you're doing at all. You really want to make the town better.
No, I sort of ran under the aspect of together everyone achieves more, and I totally believe that. From when I become a fire chief about 17 years ago, the more you can surround yourself with a nucleus of folks to work with you, the more you can strive and the more you can get accomplished.
Yeah.
And it's worked well in the fire department, and I thought, well, I think it could work well as a mayor's position too. And that's kind of where I come up with that aspect, and that's why I'm actually driving for striving of different projects and just trying to get people involved.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really great. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit on our list just because you just brought up the fire department. You've obviously been very active with the fire department. Your whole family is. I mean, there's like a Kline in every company, I think.
Yeah, from my cousins to my father and my two, well, actually all my children now. But yeah, I've been the fire chief for 17 years at Host Company 6.
Yeah.
Really enjoy it. I was an assistant chief under our previous chief, Jim Cogley, for many years, and it taught me a lot and took that knowledge and carried it on. And like I say, with the involvement of my family, back in from my grandfather's father to my grandfather to my dad and so forth, we got plenty of generations involved in it, from uncles to cousins and so forth.
Yeah, that's really great. And so how do you feel like the fire department's obviously been a huge part of your life? How do you feel like that has kind of shaped your view of Kittanning, or like just from the fire department's, how do they feel about the city and the direction of the city?
There's a lot of strong backing for the direction of the town through not only my fire department, all the fire departments. And the only reason I believe that wholeheartedly, a lot of our projects we've done, a lot of the help that we've had come out of the fire departments.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they see the vision to make it a better place, not only for themselves, but a lot of the guys have children that are coming up. Some of them are too young to belong in the fire department. Some of them are in the fire department already.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those folks just want the kids to be around the area. They want to be able to have them to where you can visit a son or a daughter within, 5-10 miles. You don't have to get out of the airport, jump on a plane, and go to another state to visit.
So did you grow up in Kittanning?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about like your childhood growing up here. Like, what was the city like when you were growing up?
I grew up in Wick City, and then once we outgrew our house, we had moved down to Woodward Avenue, which was kind of midtown. Whenever I was growing up, there was a lot of hustle and bustle in town. You had the brickyards running at each end of town. You had a Kittanning Builder Supply operating where the new Bradigan heating building is.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot going on. And to see where we're at now, and I know the evolution of time changes things, but sometimes the change of time doesn't let us catch up to it. And that's what I think we're looking at. The importance of bringing the town up to the newer way things are operated, such as a lot of folks ask you at different times, hey, we don't have anything around here to bring us to this area.
Yeah.
And they're right. If you look at the boundaries of Kittanning, where you got a hill on our east side, or west side, we have a river. We're kind of narrowed it to where you can actually look at someone dropping a plot of ground to put a larger employer in or something like such.
Yeah. And
we have to learn to work within our means to make our town successful. And whenever I say work within our means, I mean, you got some wonderful restaurants in our town. You got some wonderful businesses in our town. People need to look at the concept of supporting those folks, which once you support those folks, they have a tendency to grow, which once they start growing, that's whenever they're going to reach out and employ more folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look at Kittanning, and I always tell people I don't see the manufacturing can come back as far as on the scale that it was,
Right.
because at one point the river was the main economic point,
Correct.
and now the locks aren't even open. Like you couldn't make the river economically viable even if you wanted to. And so if you're going to build a factory, you'd build it on the highway or you'd build an interstate, and there's none of that in town. So I look at it the same way. Like Kittanning is an awesome place to live as far as cost of living, that kind of stuff. You're half an hour from a lot of different places, and so it'd be a great bedroom community. It'd be a great tourism place. I look at what like a little city like Foxburg has done.
Yeah.
With half a block. I mean, we have so much more potential than Foxburg, but they've been able to really hammer down on that tourism side of things. So I look at that and just say, what an opportunity for Kittanning someone could pick up building cheap downtown and put in a coffee shop or a bed and breakfast or something like that. And I think you're starting to see that turn.
I think so. I think the ultimate dream of seeing things like that is actually starting to turn that direction. I just think one of our next focuses we need to do, and I appreciate everything that the Summer of Serve does as far as trying to clean things up, but we need to get people on the mindset of first impression means a lot. And whenever you come into town and you see some of the way that, and I hate to sound negative to the folks, but the way the folks have their first impression of, their home or their vacant building that they own or whatever it may be, you got to make it look like it's maintained, and you got to maintain it. I mean, if you have that, then you have a positive aspect because you're a product of your environment no matter where you're at.
Yeah.
And I think if we can get people to start believing in that and taking care of their own, I think we can go better places. And that doesn't sound like a huge boost to an economic development of Kittanning, but it's a huge boost to the overall feeling of folks.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because you drive into town, you got the beautiful bridge, you got a beautiful park, and then you drive and you see a house with boarded up windows or windows that are smashed out, or the porch is half falling off the house. It's like it changes your attitude and your mindset. So I agree with you 100% on that, no doubt. We actually talked a little bit about Summer Serve, and next year, what we'd like to do is if we can kind of solve the yard problem, I'd like to do more things that are going to last longer. So if we did porch repairs or painting of paint that's flaking off, all those kinds of things, I thought, if we could change 50 houses in the city, just the facade, over the course of a summer, that would really change several blocks probably. And so that was one of the things that we talked about. So it's interesting that you brought that up.
Even thinking about looking at the aspect of just small things that could make a tremendous difference. And I've had this conversation with other folks, is I got to commend Councilman Peters for the project he's doing with the street signs.
Oh, yeah.
That is huge. The other huge thing is we can do is, no matter what and I understand the bad streets in town, it gets frustrating. And they're doing everything they can to correct that. However, to paint the curbs, for the yellow markings for the, parking, to paint the crosswalks in the streets. Now that doesn't solve anything economically, but it's the appearance thing.
Absolutely.
And it makes it look like, hey, these people are taking care of their town. I don't know when the last time is we painted a curb or we painted a crosswalk, or it's those little things that mean a lot.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking about the flower baskets. When the flower baskets came in downtown, there was a lot of people that made comments like, oh, you're putting a lipstick on a pig and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, you know what? That's a major improvement. You drive downtown and it's beautiful. The flowers are still blooming in September. And so I think it's an amazing addition. It's one of those small things that just really says, hey, someone cares about this town. Someone's making an investment here.
Right. And I think that we can... I think it looks great. Whenever you're coming off the bridge, you see the flags, you see the baskets. The only other, I'd like to see us expand from that. I'd like to see us go up the major side streets with the veteran memorial flags.
Yeah.
I think that would be a very nice touch. I've had many people call and comment and email me and says, can you get this started? Can you get something like this done?
Yeah.
And I think that's our next step, is what we need to do.
That'd be awesome.
Again, it's not going to solve any large things. it's going to paint that picture of the people coming into your town.
Yeah, yeah. You're thinking like Water Street, Mckean, Grant,
and
Jefferson.
Jefferson,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that'd be really cool. I'm interested to see where that goes. Let's see. What's on our list here? I kind of jumped around on you. Sorry.
That's fine.
So Kevin Myers, I had people just submit questions, and so Kevin Myers, he asked, I don't know if you're into superhero movies, but if you could be any superhero and use your powers to benefit Kittanning, what superhero would you be? And I said just an alternate question, as the executive, if you could take any executive power that you could give to the mayor so that you could just push some kind of force through for some kind of change for the city, what would you do?
Let's take the first one, superheroes. I have a couple that came to mind right off the bat.
Yeah.
And not that I want to talk to the fish in the river, but Aquaman.
Yeah,
if I could get that mental telepathy out to folks to give them a positive thought to different things that we wanted to do, I think that would be humongous. And then my second choice would be Flash. That way I can get the stuff done quicker.
There you go. That would help me out too.
Yeah. And ultimately, if you could get an executive power for the mayor, I think that on that end of it, more of the voice on the financial management side of it. For a living, I'm a commercial sales manager. I manage the sales force for Good Tire.
Yeah.
And I just take some of that aspects of my daily livelihood, and I put the mindset on what I see there, and sometimes I get frustrated.
Oh, yeah.
And it's something like that I think would be great.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at how some of the larger municipalities run and seeing not that I want a power-hungry job, but I want a job that you have a little bit more of a voice to where maybe you can make a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, you still ultimately got to carry the vote of your council to get something passed.
Sure.
But right now, you pretty much have an opinion.
Right. And
sometimes an opinion will swing the way people think of things. And I think that's important too.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. That's really cool. So we kind of talked about mindset a little bit. So I want to go to the next one here. This is from Matt Smith. He said, what are you doing or what's your plan to bring younger families into the area? Seems like Kittanning is now made up of a lot of very older people or very younger people and not much in between. And so, and I know that you don't have direct power over, who's going to move here and who's not going to move here, but what do you see that we can do as the citizens of Kittanning, or what do you think that council could do, or that you could be a part of to help kind of change that situation?
I think the aspect of selling town on a positive note with the changes, like we talked earlier, with like a Foxburg atmosphere, with an atmosphere of kind of like the newer section of Millville and Cheswick and so forth. Something that looks appealing for someone that can commute to the city, but yet still want to live in a rural area. Yeah. And I think, along with that, then you have to take in tender for what your tax base is, and you have to get a grip on all that. And that's going to be a tough battle, not only for this council, for the councils, that may come after it, and so forth. But I think all that plays a role, and I think the majority of it needs to take place by, and I don't want to sound bad on the previous government in town or anything, we got to bring our mindset out of the 70s and 80s and start selling what we got. Yep. And create a picture of what we got, because people paint a picture in their minds of Kittanning before they ever come here, and that's the bad thought, because the picture they're painting isn't the picture we want them to see. Yeah, absolutely. And I hated to say, but I spoke with a fella, a newer businessman the other day, and he threw out a suggestion as far as coming up with some ideas to sell the town, and I come up with the idea. I said, I'd love to kind of, not to mimic what Ford City did with the drone, but to make our own. We are the county seat. That's an important aspect of, Kittanning being in Armstrong County. We're pretty much, the county seat. We should have the best of the best, in my thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to make a a drone video to where we got to get our municipality to get a Facebook page up and running. We got to get a web page up and running. That sells that's the starting of selling your town. That's right now, the only thing people know of Kittanning is if they look at it on a map or they drive through it, and sometimes that's not the best way to do it.
Yeah, and that's kind of when I thought about first starting the YouTube channel. Because it's interesting. When I was searching, I searched on YouTube and just type in Kittanning. I was just thinking, see what's out there for Kittanning. It's like, man gets arrested for drunk driving, and so murdered so and that was literally all that was up there when you looked up Kittanning, and maybe a couple news stories from years ago. And so now when you go on there and search Kittanning, the first thing that pops up, you get Kittanning, greatest city in the world. And so I'm like, just those little things, that online presence makes such a big difference. And I'm thinking of all the companies here that are now starting to have a real active social media presence. They're going to be the winners over the next 10, 20 years.
Correct.
And you got places like Amano Pasta Shop. They're only open a few hours a day, but their social media presence is huge. And you search Kittanning restaurant, they're going to be one that pops up. Or I think like East BRA Coffee. That's a big deal, the stuff that they're doing social media online. So I think it'd be great if the city could do that. If I could ever be help with that, let me know. Especially drone videos. I have a lot of people that I want to get a drone myself, and I think that would be amazing, because that's I think one of the things that needs to be highlighted is how beautiful the town is.
Correct. I mean, we could fly, and the idea I come up with where you could actually fly that up Market Street, and you could get a picture of the courthouse, and then you can spin around or bring it across the bridge like you're coming into town. And I have a ton of ideas, and I started jotting them down, and I want to go back to talk with Justin down at BS Outfitters and say, hey, what are you thinking? This is what I'm thinking. And nothing's too big or too small for that idea, where we could come up through the park, and we could cover the marina, and we could whatever. I mean, get a good night where the kids are out in Wayland Park playing basketball, and kind of fly that over there that shows there's things here to do. There's things here for your families to do. And with the grant they're trying to put into Wayland Park, there's going to be a nice park in town.
Yeah.
And it's a win-win.
I didn't know anything about that grant. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
I know very little about it. I can tell you that, but they did get a grant to upgrade some things in Wayland Park.
Nice.
To where they, some repairs on the entrances, and so that it can be locked after the, sunsets and so forth, and to work on the tennis courts and so forth. And ultimately, one of my biggest thoughts down the road, and I kind of started reaching out to try to find out about it, but I know the Penguins had thrown some grant money towards different areas for deck hockey and so forth like that. And I have a few private citizens that were kind of going to check on that for me just to kind of help out. And that's pretty neat whenever you can get the citizens themselves to believe in what you want to do and to see that it needs done.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think the more folks, like we said earlier, the more folks that we can get to come to our council meetings to communicate, not just when there's something bad to communicate, but communicate, hey, can we work on something like this? You get more volunteerism out of folks.
Yep, absolutely. And I think council, for the most part, I mean, anytime we've ever asked, or even the codes officer, hey, is it okay to do this? They're like, yes, please. We want people to help. They want people to come with ideas and do all those kinds of things, because all of us kind of have a little bit of tunnel vision.
Right.
And then you start having conversation, you're like, wow, didn't even know that was happening. And I feel like I'm pretty connected, and I had no idea that was even on the table. So that's amazing. That's really great.
And we have a great council. I mean, we have a lot of folks on council with a lot of knowledge on our municipality, but folks got to understand. All those folks have a full-time job, just like myself.
Right.
So you're kind of balancing two things out, and with more help from the community, the more we can get done. And the shameful part about it is you get into the aspect of the folks that, well, I elected them to do this. Well, that's kind of just like sending someone out to fight the lion without any weapon. I mean,
right.
you gotta join together to get the job done.
Yeah, and I could see if every council person was like making a full-time salary or what. They're not. I mean, they're just like, they're volunteering more than any of the rest of us, probably.
Correct.
It's like same with you. You're putting a ton of time out there. So, I commend you for what you guys are trying to do. I can see the direction changing. I can see the mindset changing of the whole city, and to me, that's amazing.
It is.
That's the first step. And like you said, tax base, all that kind of stuff. That's gonna be a elephant to eat. But
right. And what folks don't realize is the more folks we get into town to take up residency, to take some of the tax burden away, that's whenever you can balance out and you can do something about taxes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, as it keeps going down, you get to that point where you start pulling away from things and start worrying about whether you're going to make both ends meet.
Right.
So,
yeah, we don't want to get to the situation where you're like, can we have a police force still, or can we still have borough workers, or you don't want to get to that point. So, I think we're right at that pivot point where, and this is nothing against New Kensington, but we can either become, like you said, Millvale, Lawrenceville, or we can become New Kensington. And I for one, it's a pretty clear choice for me. So, which way to go? And so yeah, okay.
But as far as recruiting the young families in, I think the key to that is just kind of selling our town and showing people, we are the next best thing to Pittsburgh.
Right.
And that's what we want to see. And with the development going on in the Sarver area, a lot of those folks you start to see a little bit of a push north, and it's going to take years to do that. Where maybe for the economic development to be pushing that far up, maybe we can actually do something to get the residency of the vacant houses taken up.
Yeah. And I look at my generation. I mean, I'm considered like an old millennial, basically. I'm on the upper end of the millennial generation. But I think that whole generation, they don't really care about the flashy stuff. They just want like a nice place to have good experiences. And I think Kittanning really fits the bill. I mean, if you're talking about the park, you're close to nature. You're a couple nice businesses downtown from having a nice full market street. Hopefully retail, that kind of thing, but that's maybe a different conversation. But I just think there's so much opportunity here for a young person that's like a go-getter that really wants to make a place for themselves. I think Kittanning's an awesome place for that. So
yeah, my biggest dream someday is coming down in an evening and sitting outside on a sidewalk table to where we have the exterior tables kind of like you see on the north side of Pittsburgh. I think that would be awesome. And I think right now we can get on to the pizza shop down at Bugsy's. He has that small garden to the north end of his building, which is nice. We get on there, and different nights we'll sit out there on a nice evening. But I think the more we can see that, I kind of keep throwing that idea to the fellow at Yamato, because that's like one of my second best restaurants.
Me too, man. So, I'm going there tomorrow. Yeah, it'd be great if you had like places like Dizzy Lizzie's had a couple tables outside, and you could grab a coffee in the evening, or a place that had coffee and ice cream, and I can get coffee and my wife can get ice cream, and we can go for a walk downtown under the beautiful new lights. I'm totally with you. I would love to see that kind of thing happen again, and I don't think we're that far away from that. I don't think so. Just a couple little tweaks here and there.
We're gonna get that first setting, and once it seems like once one business does it, the other one say, "That's a pretty good idea. I think we're gonna do it. We're gonna try that too." So
I think if someone tries it, they'll make money at it.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be that's the key. So, all right. Well, James Pete asked online. He said, "What's your favorite part of our town?" It's a tough one.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, I like. I shouldn't say like. I love the whole town.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, not just because I'm from there, but Wick City. I mean, there's so much history up there that a lot of folks, and even myself, don't even know the tip of the iceberg. I mean, from Wick, China to the Drexel brick, refractories in the brickyard up there, to the way that the trolley used to come right up through the center of town, and the Wick City Saloon, the way the front of that building used to look, and the furniture store that used to be up there, and it's just huge. And I just think that's pretty much one of my favorites, because I looked back through some of the history books, some of the pictures and everything. Pete Harmon's been up at our fire station and looked through some of our old photos and so forth. That's got to be ultimately probably my favorite part of the town.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of history in the main section of town, but I kind of got to side with the residential side.
Yeah. I like Wick City too, obviously, and that's where the church is. I know that's where your church is at too, so it's like, well, I guess our church isn't technically in Wick City, but we're up that way. And I didn't know there was a trolley. So like Woodward Avenue or Avenue was a trolley went through there?
Yeah, come up through and went up past the fire stations up towards the northern end of town.
That's really cool.
And then even whenever you get back far to where whenever the rails used to run through town, it used to be remarkable just to hear the trains come up through. And I'm a train buff myself. So, I enjoy that, and seeing the old train station still there at the corner of Reynolds and North Grant. That's just those buildings there. Just they bring back the memories of the town and what it used to be and so forth. And I think Mr. Sloop always kind of throws some of those pictures out on Facebook of various stuff through town, and I just think that needs to even be brought into a selling point of current Kittanning with the way it used to be, and I think it would mesh everything together for everybody.
You're giving me so many video ideas right now.
So.
But yeah, I mean, Wick City, everyone that I talked to, that there's a lot of people that used to live in Wick City that now live out of town, and every time we talk about summer service somebody and they see a video online and they're always like, I'm so glad, I love Wick City so much, and I want to see Wick City thrive again. And I think there's a major opportunity there. You look at that old furniture building. I mean, that building could be amazing. To put a little set of shops in there, or a little market or something for there, just fresh food market or something. I mean, it'd be really great.
And what's remarkable about the Wick City is whenever you've had some of the videos on, or whenever someone asks where do you live, or you get into talking to somebody, they always say, well, that's the old Walker House, or that's the old Sleep. They don't really recognize the address. They recognize who lived there, and that's what's neat about a small town.
That's a testament to that neighborhood, because it is like that. A lot of people are like, oh, my teacher used to live there, and and this guy, he used to own the gas station, and it's just like really neat. And there's a lot of that, and if we don't capture that now, 30 years from now, that's going to be
and
gone.
What's remarkable, it seemed like you used to start at one end of town, and you could go up through, and I had taken one night just kind of having fun around the fire station, naming all the small markets that used to be up through there. Every 2.5 blocks, you used to have a small market to where an individual had, you go in there and buy ice cream or milk or bread or what have you. And that's gone.
Right.
So, but that was pretty neat.
Yeah. And I really, I think the Y moving up there was really huge. And I think, that was kind of like step one for me for Wick City. And now you're seeing the Y's getting really active on working with the trail. And then they put that mural up on the saloon. And, there's just some little things happening that are like sparks of life. And it'll be really interesting to see what happens with the high school and what that's all going to turn into. And just really excited for that area and the town.
I think there's a lot going on. And, I keep hoping the dielectric solution, that building keeps going. They have 3 shifts that work there now, and so forth. And at one time, whenever it was 5 rubber and stuff, that was just a main area, thoroughfare up there for people to be going to work. And to see that building not vacant is a huge asset to town.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I don't know a lot about that business, but I know that they're busy.
They're busy.
Yeah. So that's a great thing. I think we're coming up at the end. I got one more question for you. So it's number 7 on your list there. When I first moved to Kittanning, it was 6.5 years ago, we were kind of shocked because we kind of fell in love with the city before we ever talked to anybody. We just came here, and I proposed to my wife at Buttermilk Falls. So we were like, we loved it here already. We had ties here before we even had ties here. And so when we started talking to people, once I started the business, I was shocked at how negative people were. Now, I don't think people are as negative now as they were even 6 years ago, but we talked about mindset a little bit earlier and how powerful that is, and I think that power runs in both directions. You have a negative mindset, you're going to run down a negative direction. You get a positive mindset, you're going to run down a positive. So I just want to ask you, what's your mindset about the city's direction as it stands here in 2018, and what would you say to those people on the other side of wherever you're at?
I got a huge positive mindset of where we can take our town. The aspect of, and like I said before, to get the people to believe in what you want to do is the toughest thing. You can never motivate someone that can't be motivated.
Yeah,
it's a tough thing.
So
but
true.
I think with the positive feeds that folks see, we'll revert back to even a summer serve with the positive that they see that those folks and just to have everybody in the shirts like you folks do, that actually meshes it even more. But having more people see stuff like that going on, that's one of the reasons I took the job on to try to work with the trail to clean it up on North Grand Avenue. Whenever I had Take Back Your Community meeting back, I think it was in February, we had over 100 residents come in there just to talk about the drug problems we're having in town and how we can correct it. And that was identified as one of the areas that there was some heavy trafficking and also some usage going on. So with cleaning it out, to hear that, not to pat anybody on the back, myself or anybody else that was up there working, but to hear the positive communication after that was done, to me that was almost a mindset thinking, well, if we can do more of this, we can start winning more of these people over.
Yep, you got it.
And with what Mr. Kilmeyer done down in the park,
yep,
hearing the positive of that, I think as we keep rolling, and every quarter, I was telling my fiance the other day, I said, next year every quarter I want to come up with some kind of a project.
Yeah.
And she says, okay. And she says, I'm there for you. So I appreciate that. But I think if we can do something like that and get the cooperation with not only the people in town, get the cooperation with the folks at in our fire departments, our police department, our public works, whenever people see volunteers come out from those entities, that speaks volumes.
Absolutely.
Whether it be from them, whether it be from our local churches, whether it be from our local businesses, and every project I've seen us work on so far, there has been representation from those areas of the public, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
And I think that will help motivate those folks that aren't very easily motivated or won't can't swing them. And I think afterwards, we're going to have more naysayers than we do believers, and that's where I want to go with it.
Yeah, and that's what I think too. To get to the question, I think you answered it great. Just to give my take on it, people always talk negative about council or about the government or about the police force, and it's awesome to have like a project like that completed, the one that you led and Joe Kilmeyer, because then I get to point and they're like, if someone says, oh, they don't care about the town, they only care about blah blah blah, and they don't even know anybody. Mm-hmm. They're talking about people they don't have any relationship with, they don't know anything about them, they don't follow the news, they just have a negative mindset, period. And to be able to point to it and say, hey, you know what, Scott Davis and Joe Kilmeyer were down in the park doing that, and Mayor Kline was down there on the trail working his tail off, and the Chief Matthews was there that day with a chainsaw. Like, he worked his tail off all day too. It's like, you know what? These are people that are leading us that I'm proud to be led by. They're out there working. They're out there doing. They're out there really trying to make a difference. They're not just talking about it. They're actually like getting their hands dirty and getting into it. And so that's for me. I'm obviously extraordinarily positive about the future of the city. And when I talk to people about negative stuff, I used to just be able to say, well, it could. And now I get to point and say, well, no, it's happening. And so it's really powerful then, because then they don't have anything to say to that.
Right.
And you do win them over time. And you say, well, they're doing it, so why don't you come out and help out a little bit too?
and I think another thing that helps sell it a lot is, the videos that the greatest city in the world.
Yeah.
I think everybody you talk to now, I've been kind of trying the waters with it, say, hey, did you see any of Andrew's videos? And some of the people say, no, I haven't. We'll see one. Take a look at one.
Well, I appreciate that.
And now the more people I see, and whenever we're talking about them, they said, hey, did you watch that? It's kind of a two-way street now. And I got that going on with some of the guys at the station, and the positive of that is actually going to help things too.
Yeah, I think it's baby steps. It's not just one thing. It's going to be a multitude of things that are going to equal one really, really great turnaround for our great little city.
I think like you say, we're going in the right direction.
Amen, my friend.
We're going in the right direction.
Well, I think this has been really good.
I did. I enjoyed it.
You want to do this again sometime?
Sure.
We'll sit down with the city budget next time, since you want to do that.
Ooh.
That'd be scary.
I can bring some help with that one. But I think it'd be great to even include like see if one of the street superintendent or Chief Matthews or anything like that. Even
Chief Matthews on my short list. I got Scott Davis has agreed to come, so I have a couple city council people on my list to have interviews with. And if you have any other ones that you could point me to, I think that'd be great.
Not a problem.
They'll see this one and they'll be like, I want to do that.
Not a problem.
All right. Well, God bless you, my friend. I appreciate you coming, being the first one. And from the greatest city in the world, Mayor Scott Kline, this is Andrew. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate it.